I've always considered myself an even-tempered guy. My name's Alex, and I've spent years climbing the ladder at a successful tech company. But nothing could have prepared me for the bombshell that was about to drop on my life. The revelation came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, a day that started so routine it could have been boring. That was until my boss, Richard, barged into my office, his face pale and his lips set in a grim line. "Alex," he started, voice low and strained, "we need to talk. And it's not about work." My gut tightened. Richard isn't the type to wear emotions on his sleeve, but right now, his face was a storm. Before I could ask, he slammed a folder onto my desk. I froze. Inside were photos, my fiancée, Emily, in a series of cozy, intimate moments. But the man wasn't me. My throat went dry as I flipped through the evidence, each shot more damning than the last. "Who?" I managed to choke out, though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. "Lisa," Richard hissed, his teeth clenched. "My wife." I sank into my chair, the air knocked out of me like I'd been punched in the gut. My fiancé and his wife? It felt surreal. My hands trembled as I stared at the photos, while rising in my throat. Emily, the woman I was supposed to marry, was in another man's arms, and that man's wife had trusted her just as much as I had. Richard sat down heavily across from me, his eyes burning with the kind of fury I felt bubbling under my own skin. "I found these in Lisa's email," he said, his voice trembling but hard. "I didn't know who the guy was until I saw your engagement photos on her phone." My mind reeled, piecing together the countless late nights Emily had excused as wedding prep stress or last-minute errands. It was all a lie. My chest heaved as anger and disbelief tangled into a raging storm. I can't believe this," I stammered, though my hands balled into fists on instinct. "Richard, I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know." He leaned forward, his tone sharp but measured. "I'm not blaming you, Alex, but I think we can agree they've crossed a line." The word revenge wasn't spoken aloud, but it hung in the air between us, palpable and growing heavier by the second. Both of us had been humiliated, betrayed, and left in the dark while they carried on their deceit. The shock was giving way to a white-hot determination. I looked at Richard, and for the first time, I saw not just my boss but a man as furious and shattered as I was. We didn't need to spell it out. The question wasn't if we'd retaliate. The question was how. Richard leans back in his chair, staring at the wall with a faraway look in his eyes. I can feel the same chaotic mix of anger and betrayal coursing through me, twisting my stomach into knots. The photos sit between us, like the physical embodiment of everything wrong in our lives. I can't look at them anymore. "Alex," Richard finally says, his voice low and firm, "we've got two choices. We can sit here, let them make fools of us, or," his pause lingers, heavy with unspoken intent, "or we make sure they regret it," I finish for him. My own voice surprises me, steady and decisive, despite the storm inside. My words hang in the air, daring him to match my resolve. Richard nods slowly, his jaw tightening. "Exactly." We sit in silence for a moment, both of us lost in thought. My mind races through every interaction I've had with Emily over the past few months. The nights she came home late, the suspiciously secretive texts she brushed off as work stuff, the sudden distance I chalked up to wedding nerves. Now it all makes sense, and the realization hits me like a sledgehammer. She made me feel like I was the problem, I mutter, more to myself than to him. Like I wasn't doing enough, wasn't good enough. All the while, my voice trails off, the words too bitter to finish. "She's no better," Richard says bitterly, his fists clenching on the armrests of the chair. "Lisa's been running our household, acting like the perfect wife, while sneaking around behind my back. Do you know how humiliating this is?" I shake my head. "We don't deserve this, Richard." "No," he agrees, his voice hard. "We don't." A plan starts forming in the back of my mind, fueled by the fire in my chest. We can't just confront them and let them walk away. It's too easy. They have to understand what they've done to us. Richard raises an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" I hesitate, testing the waters before diving in. What if we hit them where it hurts most? Not just their reputations, their lives. They think they've outsmarted us, but we can turn the tables. His lips curl into a tight smirk, a spark of approval in his eyes. You've got my attention. As the conversation deepens, the bitterness in my chest begins to harden into something colder and sharper, like a blade honed for a single purpose. Richard and I start mapping out the details, our ideas building on each other in a twisted rhythm of mutual vengeance. We're not just angry, we're motivated. I don't feel guilt. Not yet, and maybe not ever. They've torn apart our trust, our lives, and our futures. Emily thought she could hide her betrayal in wedding plans, while Lisa played the loving wife. They didn't just cheat on us, they humiliated us. And now, Richard and I are united by the same goal. We're going to make them regret every lie. I say, my voice cold and steady. Damn right we are, Richard replies. This is just the beginning. That night, I sit in my apartment, staring at Emily's photo on my nightstand. She looks radiant, her smile bright and full of promise, the kind of smile that used to make me feel like the luckiest man alive. Now, it feels like a mockery, a symbol of the illusion she crafted while betraying me behind my back. I pick up my phone and scroll through our messages. Each "I love you" she sent now feels like a dagger, each sweet word dripping with lies. My thumb hovers over her contact, but I stop myself. Confronting her now would be impulsive, reckless. No, I need to play this smart. Richard and I have a plan, and it starts tomorrow. The next morning, I meet Richard at a quiet coffee shop downtown. He's already there, sitting in the corner with 2 steaming cups on the table. His face is set in a grim expression, but there's a glint in his eyes that tells me he's ready. We need leverage, he says, skipping pleasantries as I take my seat. Something that will hit them harder than just a confrontation. Do you have anything on Emily? I shake my head. Not yet, but I'm willing to dig. She's been careful, though, always deleting messages, keeping her phone close. If she's slipped up, I haven't found it. Richard leans back, his fingers tapping against the cup. Lisa's been the same way, but I have access to her accounts. She doesn't know I've kept tabs on her for years. It's the only reason I found out about this. I raise an eyebrow. Accounts? Email, social media, he clarifies. She's not exactly tech-savvy. It's how I got those photos. My mind races. If Richard can access Lisa's accounts, maybe I can do the same with Emily. She's never been great with passwords. Half the time, she uses the same one for everything. It's a long shot, but it's worth a try. We spend the rest of the morning brainstorming, piecing together a strategy. The plan is simple. Gather evidence, expose their affair, and make sure their lives unravel just like they tried to do to ours. It's not enough to confront them. We need to ensure there's no coming back from this. Richard hands me a USB drive as we leave. Everything I have so far. Use it wisely. As I walk back to my car, I feel a strange mix of emotions. Anger, determination, and a grim sense of satisfaction. For the first time since discovering the affair, I feel like I'm in control. That evening, I sit at my laptop, the USB drive clutched in my hand. It's a Pandora's box of secrets, a collection of everything Richard has gathered on Lisa. As I plug it in, my heart pounds with anticipation. The screen fills with folders labeled with dates and locations, each one a piece of the puzzle. Hours pass as I sift through the evidence, my anger reigniting with every new discovery. Photos, receipts, messages, it's all there, clear as day. Lisa and Emily didn't just cheat. They flaunted their affair, confident that Richard and I would never find out. But now we have the upper hand. I shut the laptop with a snap, my mind made up. Tomorrow, I'll start digging into Emily's life, uncovering every lie she's told and every secret she's kept. I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm doing it for Richard, for both of us. They underestimated us, and now they'll pay the price. This isn't over. It's just getting started. The next day, I call in sick to work. Richard's USB drive has stirred something in me, a relentless need to dig deeper, to uncover the whole truth. I can't let this go until I know everything. Sitting at my desk, I open Emily's laptop, the one she rarely uses anymore but hasn't bothered to lock with a password. I've always respected her privacy. Not anymore. As I navigate through her files, my chest tightens with every click. Most of it is mundane: wedding planning documents, work reports, old photos of us. But then I find a folder tucked away in a corner of the desktop, innocuously labeled Receipts. My hand hesitates on the trackpad before opening it. Inside, I find transaction records, fancy dinners, hotel bookings, spa trips. None of them include me. My stomach churns as I note the dates. Every single one coincides with a night she claimed to be working late or meeting her bridesmaids. The betrayal isn't just a wound. It's an infection spreading through every memory we shared. I snap photos of the receipts with my phone, ensuring I have my own record. Then I move to her email. This part is trickier. Emily never leaves her email logged in on her laptop. I lean back, frustration simmering under my skin. That's when I remember the little password notebook she keeps in her desk drawer. She calls it her cheat sheet. I scoff at the irony. The notebook is right where I expect it, tucked beneath a stack of unused stationery. Flipping through the pages, I find her email login. I type it in, holding my breath. Bingo! Her inbox floods the screen. It's mostly work emails, but a few stand out, marked with a discreet heart emoji. I click on one, my hands shaking. The message is from Lisa, Richard's wife. Last night was incredible. It reads, "Can't stop thinking about it. Let me know when we can sneak away again." My vision blurs as I read and reread the words. Attached to the email is a selfie of Lisa and Emily, taken in what looks like a hotel room. Their smiles are radiant, their eyes sparkling. It's a photo of two people who believe they've gotten away with something. I slam the laptop shut, rage coursing through me. It's not just the affair. It's their arrogance. They've flaunted their betrayal, treating it like some private joke at our expense. I grab my phone and text Richard. "We need to meet. I've got something you need to see." His reply comes instantly. "Tonight. My place." That evening, I pull into Richard's driveway, my pulse racing. His house is dark, save for a single light in the living room. As I step inside, he greets me with a grim nod, holding 2 glasses of whiskey. "What did you find?" he asks, his voice low. I sit down and show him the photos and receipts. His jaw tightens with each one, his knuckles white around his glass. When I show him the email, he slams his drink onto the table, spilling it over the edge. "That's it," he growls. "They think this is a game? Fine. Let's play." For the next 2 hours, we piece together our plan. It's bold, risky, and a little insane, but it's exactly what they deserve. By the time I leave, the anger in my chest has cooled, replaced by a cold, calculated determination. Emily and Lisa have no idea what's coming for them. The next morning, I wake up with a clarity I haven't felt in days. The plan Richard and I concocted isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming the control they tried to steal from us. Today, we make the first move. Richard and I meet at a diner on the outskirts of town. It's a quiet spot, the kind of place where no one pays attention to anyone else. Over black coffee and scrambled eggs, we finalize the details. He slides an envelope across the table, his expression unreadable. "It's all there," he says. Photos, dates, even a few emails I pulled from Lisa's account. "Use it wisely." I take the envelope and tuck it into my jacket, nodding. "You sure about this?" He smirks, a bitter edge to his smile. "They didn't hesitate to humiliate us." "I'm sure." By midday, I'm at the printing shop. I don't know the guy behind the counter, and I prefer it that way. He doesn't ask questions when I hand him the USB drive, just loads the files onto his computer and nods. Within an hour, I have everything I need. Glossy prints of every incriminating photo, neatly organized in a brown envelope. The next step is trickier. Emily works at a boutique marketing firm downtown, her office tucked into a sleek building with floor-to-ceiling windows. I wait in the coffee shop across the street, watching through the glass as she moves about her day, oblivious to the storm brewing just outside. When the time is right, I cross the street and slip into the lobby. The receptionist barely looks up as I approach her desk, too absorbed in her phone. "I'm here to drop something off for Emily," I say, holding up the envelope. She nods, gesturing toward the desk. "You can leave it here. I'll make sure she gets it." "Perfect." I set the envelope down, my heart pounding as I turn and walk out. The whole interaction takes less than a minute, but it feels like an eternity. As I step back onto the sidewalk, a strange sense of satisfaction washes over me. The truth is out of my hands now, ready to do its damage. Richard handles his side of the plan with equal precision. That evening, he texts me a photo of Lisa's face as she discovers the envelope he left for her on the kitchen counter. Her expression is a mix of shock and terror, her mouth open mid-gasp. It's all the confirmation I need that we've struck a nerve. Later that night, my phone buzzes with a call from Emily. I let it ring, savoring the moment. When it stops, a text comes through almost immediately. "We need to talk." I don't reply. Instead, I pour myself a drink and sink into the couch, staring out the window at the city lights. Emily and Lisa thought they could manipulate us, lie to us, and walk away unscathed. They were wrong. Tomorrow, the real fallout begins. The next day dawns heavy with anticipation. My phone has been lighting up non-stop since early morning. Emily's name flashing across the screen, her texts alternating between panic and poorly veiled excuses. I ignore every one of them. Let her stew. Around noon, there's a knock at my door. I don't have to guess who it is. When I open it, Emily stands there, her hair slightly disheveled and her face flushed with a mix of anger and desperation. "Alex, we need to talk," she says, her voice trembling. I lean against the doorframe, keeping my expression cold. "Talk about what? The wedding? Or maybe your little side project with Lisa?" Her face pales, the blood draining so fast it's almost impressive. "It's not what you think. Stop." I cut her off, my voice sharp. "Don't insult me by pretending. I've seen the photos, Emily. I've read the emails. I know everything." She stares at me, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for a response. For a moment, I almost pity her, almost. But then I remember the months of deceit, the lies she fed me with a smile, and the anger flares up again. "Why?" I ask, my tone colder now. "Was I not enough for you? Were you bored? What the hell were you thinking?" Emily steps forward, her hands reaching out as if to touch me, but I step back, refusing to let her close the distance. "Alex, please," she pleads, her voice cracking. "It was a mistake. A stupid, meaningless mistake." "A mistake?" I laugh bitterly. "You don't accidentally sneak off to hotels and send love notes. This wasn't a mistake, Emily. This was a choice. Over and over again." Tears well up in her eyes, but I don't care. She doesn't get to play the victim here. Not after what she's done. "I was going to tell you," she whispers, as if that's supposed to make it better. I didn't know how to. I hold up a hand, silencing her. "Save it. I don't care what your excuse is. You've ruined everything. There's no coming back from this." Emily's tears spill over, and she collapses onto the couch, her sobs filling the silence. For a moment, I watch her, my emotions swirling in a chaotic storm. Part of me wants to scream at her, to demand answers, but another part is just tired. So damn tired. "You need to leave," I say finally, my voice devoid of emotion. "Pack your things and go." She looks up at me, her face streaked with tears. "Alex, please. Don't do this. I love you." The words sting, but they don't land the way they used to. "No, you don't," I reply, my tone steady. "If you did, you wouldn't have done this." As she sobs into her hands, I walk out of the room, leaving her to confront the wreckage of her own making. Meanwhile, at Richard's house, things are playing out much the same way. He calls me later that evening, his voice calm but tinged with a dark satisfaction. "Lisa's in pieces," he says simply. "She's begging me to forgive her." "And will you?" I ask, though I already know the answer. He laughs, a humorless sound. "Not a chance. She can beg all she wants, but she made her choice. Now she can live with it." We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of our respective confrontations settling over us. "This isn't over," Richard says eventually. "Not yet." "No," I agree. "It's not. We both know there's more to come, more truths to uncover, more consequences to deliver, and we're ready for it." By the next day, the fallout begins to ripple outward. Word spreads quickly in the close-knit circles Emily and Lisa inhabit. My inbox fills with messages, some from mutual friends feigning concern, others brimming with curiosity, trying to dig for gossip. I ignore them all. Let the truth unfold on its own. Richard calls mid-morning. "You'll want to hear this," he says, his tone laced with grim amusement. "What now?" I ask, already bracing myself. "Lisa went to her sister's house last night. She told her everything, hoping for sympathy. Guess what? Her sister's been waiting to spill the beans on Lisa's spending habits and some shady dealings. Turns out, Lisa's not just been lying to me. She's been skimming from our accounts." The revelation stuns me for a moment. Wait, what? How much are we talking? Enough to make me rethink how deep this betrayal goes. "She's been funneling money into a private account for over a year," he says, the anger in his voice barely contained. "Looks like her plan was to leave me eventually. Guess she didn't expect this to blow up first." I lean back, the weight of his words sinking in. "And Emily? She's been messaging Lisa nonstop, freaking out. They're trying to strategize, but I've cut off Lisa's access to our shared accounts. She's scrambling." The thought of Emily and Lisa panicking together almost makes me smile. They've built their lives on lies, and now it's all crumbling around them. For a moment, I let myself savor it. But then, reality hits. The road ahead isn't as simple as basking in their downfall. There's still so much to sort through, so much to decide. And one thing is clear. This mess won't resolve itself. That afternoon, I meet Richard at his office. He's calm on the surface, but the tension in his shoulders gives him away. "We need to think about the next step," he says as we sit down. "What are you thinking?" I ask. "I'm thinking we've got enough leverage to force some accountability," he says, his voice measured. "If we play this right, we can make sure they can't just walk away from this unscathed." I nod slowly, considering his words. He's right. Confrontations are one thing, but consequences are another. Emily and Lisa didn't just betray us. They destroyed trust, mocked our love, and tried to manipulate us. They don't get to walk away without facing the full weight of their actions. We start mapping out our next move. It's not about revenge anymore. It's about justice. As we talk, I realize something strange. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I feel lighter. Not happy, exactly, but unburdened. The lies have been exposed, the truth is out, and I'm no longer trapped in a web of deceit. Now, it's just a matter of moving forward. By the time we're done, Richard leans back in his chair, a faint smirk on his face. "They thought they were untouchable," he says. "They were wrong." I chuckle, the sound unexpected but genuine. They have no idea what's coming. As I leave his office, the sun dips low in the sky, painting the city in shades of gold. There's still a long road ahead, but for the first time, I feel ready to face it. Tomorrow, we strike again. The following morning, I wake up to a new kind of determination. The dust is far from settled, but Richard and I have agreed on the next phase of our plan. It's time to hit Emily and Lisa where it hurts most. Not just their emotions, but their carefully constructed reputations. Richard calls me first thing. "I've got everything ready," he says. "Lisa's company is hosting a networking event tonight. Perfect timing." "Perfect for what?" I ask, already intrigued. "To make sure her colleagues get a glimpse of the real Lisa," he says, his tone sharp. "She's spent years building this image as the consummate professional. Let's see how well that holds up when they know what she's been doing behind the scenes." The idea is bold, reckless, even, but I can't deny the appeal. "You're sure about this?" I ask. "I've never been more sure of anything," he replies. By noon, we're both ready. I focus on Emily's world, using the receipts and emails I uncovered to prepare a package that tells the story of her betrayal in vivid detail. It's a damning narrative, one that leaves no room for her usual excuses or manipulations. As I review the materials, my phone buzzes. It's a text from Emily. "I know you're angry, but can we please talk? Just once." Her desperation is palpable, but I ignore it. We're beyond talking. I have nothing left to say to her. Later that afternoon, I meet Richard outside Lisa's event venue. He looks sharp in his tailored suit, but there's a steely edge to his demeanor that mirrors my own. In his hands is a stack of glossy envelopes, each one containing enough evidence to dismantle Lisa's pristine image. "Ready?" he asks. "More than ready," I reply. We move with precision, slipping the envelopes onto the seats in the event hall, ensuring they're impossible to miss. The plan is simple. Let Lisa's peers discover her duplicity in the middle of a professional gathering. It's a public reckoning, one she can't talk her way out of. By the time we finish, the hall is buzzing with guests. Richard and I slip out unnoticed, our work done. The rest is up to the evidence. Back home, I prepare for my own move. Emily's best friend, Karen, has always been skeptical of me, never outright rude, but always subtly critical. She's also one of Emily's closest confidants. If anyone deserves to know the truth, it's her. I compose a message, attaching the most damning photos and receipts, and send it off. It's not long before Karen replies, her shock evident in her short, stilted texts. "Is this real?" she writes. "As real as it gets," I respond. "You've always had Emily's back, Karen. Just make sure you know who you're defending." By evening, the first ripples of our actions begin to surface. Richard sends me a text. Lisa just stormed out of the event. It was a disaster. I can almost hear the satisfaction in his words. It's a small victory, but it feels significant. That night, I sit alone in my apartment, scrolling through my phone as messages and calls pour in. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances, they're all starting to see the truth. Emily's betrayal isn't just a private matter anymore. It's a reckoning. Tomorrow, the consequences will continue to unfold. For now, I take a deep breath and let myself feel something I haven't felt in weeks: relief. The weight of their lies is no longer mine to bear. The next morning, I wake up to chaos. My phone buzzes nonstop with notifications. Emily has finally realized the full extent of what's happening, and her frantic texts confirm it. "How could you do this to me?" One message reads. "You're ruining my life," says another. I don't respond. Every accusation she throws at me feels hollow, like a thief blaming the lock for being too secure. Instead, I scroll through the messages flooding in from mutual friends. Most are shocked, others confused, and a handful outright supportive. The truth is spreading faster than I anticipated. Around noon, Richard calls. "Alex," he starts, his voice calm but laced with an edge. "Lisa showed up at my office this morning. What happened?" I ask, intrigued. She was hysterical, claiming I'd ruined her career. Apparently, people are already pulling back from her, questioning her integrity. She begged me to stop, but when I asked her why I should, she couldn't answer. I can hear the satisfaction in his tone. "And what did you say?" I told her she made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. We both fall silent for a moment, the gravity of our actions settling in. It's not easy, watching the fallout from a distance, but there's no denying the catharsis in finally seeing some semblance of justice. That evening, Emily shows up at my door. I'm tempted not to answer, but curiosity gets the better of me. When I open it, she looks like a shadow of her former self. Her hair disheveled, her eyes red from crying. "Alex," she begins, her voice trembling. "Please, just hear me out." I fold my arms, leaning against the doorframe. "You've got 5 minutes. She takes a shaky breath. "I was stupid, okay? It was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you. I felt trapped. Lisa convinced me it was harmless, that it didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything?" I repeat, my voice rising. "You betrayed me, Emily. You lied to me, over and over again. You don't get to stand here and pretend it was meaningless." Her tears spill over as she clutches her arms, looking down. I know I messed up, but I love you, Alex. I still love you." The words hit like a blow, but they don't carry the same weight they once did. "No," I say, my voice steady. "You don't. If you did, this wouldn't have happened. You wanted out? Congratulations. You got your wish." She stares at me, her face crumpling as the reality sinks in. "So that's it," she whispers. "You're just going to throw everything away?" I laugh bitterly. "Throw everything away? Emily, you burned it to the ground." Without another word, I close the door, her muffled sobs fading as I walk away. For the first time, I feel free, not from her, but from the weight of everything she's done. I gave her my trust, my love, and she threw it all away. Now, it's her burden to carry. Later that night, Richard and I meet for drinks. There's a somber air between us, the weight of what we've done lingering despite the small victories. She came to my office again, he says, swirling his glass, begging me to take her back. What did you say? I ask. He smirks faintly. I told her I'm just getting started. I chuckle, though the sound feels hollow. We've come this far, but the road ahead still feels uncertain. For now, we toast to the only thing we can control, our resolve to move forward. The next day, I wake up to an unexpected email from Karen, Emily's best friend. She had always been wary of me, but this time her tone is different. Alex, I saw everything. I can't believe what Emily has done to you. If you need anything, let me know. I lean back in my chair, rereading the message. Karen's loyalty has always been to Emily, but the truth has turned even her closest allies against her. It's ironic, really. The same people Emily thought would rally to her defense are the ones now stepping away, seeing her for what she's done. Later, Richard calls with an update of his own. Lisa's been trying to do damage control at work, he says, his voice laced with grim satisfaction. But it's too late. Word's gotten out. Clients are pulling their accounts. The board's already considering her replacement. I can't help but laugh, the sound bitter but satisfying. What did she expect? That no one would notice? She underestimated how far this would go, he says. They both did. That evening, I receive another text from Emily. This one is different, less frantic, more resigned. I know I've lost you, it reads. I just want to say I'm sorry. I stare at the screen for a long moment, the words feeling almost hollow. Maybe she's genuinely remorseful, or maybe she's just saying what she thinks I want to hear. Either way, it doesn't change what's happened. I don't reply. Instead, I focus on my next move. The envelope of evidence I prepared for Emily's family sits on my desk, untouched. It's a last resort, a card I haven't yet decided to play. But as I think about the lies she told, the way she tried to manipulate me even after being caught, my resolve hardens. Her parents deserve to know the truth. The following morning, I drop the envelope into the mailbox. It's not about revenge anymore. It's about ensuring she can't twist the narrative to her advantage. Her family, her closest allies, they all need to see her for who she really is. By noon, I get a call from Richard. You're not going to believe this, he says, his tone urgent. What now? I ask. Lisa's threatening to sue me, he says, a dry chuckle escaping him. Defamation, emotional distress, you name it. And what did you tell her? That she should talk to her lawyer, he says, his smirk practically audible. Preferably the same one she'll need for her divorce. I laugh, the sound coming more easily than I expected. They're grasping at straws. Exactly, he says. They're unraveling, Alex. All we have to do is sit back and let it happen. That night, I sit on my balcony, staring out at the city lights. The anger I've carried for weeks has started to fade, replaced by a strange sense of calm. Emily and Lisa thought they could control the narrative, manipulate the truth. But now, their lies are crumbling around them, leaving nothing but the wreckage they created. For the first time, I feel like I can breathe again. The morning air feels lighter, almost cleansing. I sip my coffee while scrolling through my messages. The chaos from the last few days is finally beginning to quiet down, though the aftermath is far from over. A voicemail notification catches my attention. It's from Emily's mother, a woman who's always been kind to me, almost maternal at times. My finger hovers over the play button, uncertain if I want to hear what she has to say. Curiosity wins out. Alex, her voice begins, soft and weary. I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry for everything. I had no idea Emily was capable of something like this. Please know that we're here if you need anything. You don't deserve this. The weight of her words surprises me. Emily's mother, always so fiercely protective of her daughter, now aligning with me. It's a testament to how far Emily has fallen in everyone's eyes. I put the phone down and stare at the wall, conflicted. The vindication feels good, but it doesn't undo the hurt. Later, Richard and I meet at a park. It's strange seeing him outside the confines of work or a dimly lit bar, but the change of scenery feels necessary. We sit on a bench overlooking a quiet pond, the tranquility at odds with the turmoil in our lives. "She's gone," Richard says, breaking the silence. "Gone?" I ask, turning to him. "Lisa packed her things and left this morning. Said she needed space." He scoffs, shaking his head. "She didn't even try to fight for us. Just ran." I nod slowly, unsure what to say. "What about the company?" "She's done there, too. The board made it official this morning. They're framing it as a resignation, but we both know the truth." There's a pause as we watch the ducks glide across the water, their movements calm and purposeful. "Do you regret it?" I ask finally. He doesn't answer right away. When he does, his voice is steady. "No. What about you?" I think about Emily's tears, her pleas for forgiveness, the voicemail from her mother. "No," I say. "Not at all." That evening, I get another text from Karen. This one is longer, more detailed. "Emily's been calling me non-stop." It reads, "She's a mess, Alex. She keeps saying she didn't mean for any of this to happen, that she wants to make things right. I told her she needs to face the consequences of her actions. She didn't take it well." I smile faintly, appreciating Karen's honesty. Emily always assumed Karen would back her no matter what, but even she has her limits. Before bed, I receive one last message, this time from Emily herself. "I know I've hurt you more than I can ever fix. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please don't hate me. I loved you, Alex. I still do." Her words sting, but they don't weaken my resolve. Love isn't supposed to hurt like this. It isn't supposed to be laced with betrayal and lies. I delete the message without replying. Tomorrow, I'll start focusing on the one thing that's been missing through all of this, myself. The next morning, the air feels different, cleaner somehow. For the first time in weeks, I don't wake up with a knot of anger or dread in my stomach. The chaos is finally settling, leaving behind a strange, empty calm. As I sip my coffee, I make a decision. I need to start putting my life back together. I head to the gym, something I haven't done since discovering Emily's betrayal. The weights feel heavier than I remember, my muscles sluggish and uncooperative. But as I push through the reps, I feel a flicker of something I thought I'd lost: strength. Not just physical, but mental, emotional. Every rep feels like a step away from the mess Emily and Lisa left behind. Later, I meet Richard for lunch at a quiet bistro downtown. He looks better than I've seen him in days. His suit crisp, his demeanor composed. He raises his glass of iced tea in a silent toast as I sit down. "How are you holding up?" he asks, genuinely curious. I shrug, offering a small smile. "Better. I think I'm finally starting to move on." He nods. "Good. It's about time we both did." As we eat, we talk about everything but Emily and Lisa. Work, hobbies, plans for the future. It's a refreshing change, a reminder that there's more to life than the betrayal we've endured. By the time we finish, I feel lighter, like a weight has been lifted from my shoulders. That afternoon, I start clearing out my apartment. Emily left most of her things behind when she stormed out, and I've avoided dealing with them until now. But as I pack her belongings into boxes, I don't feel the anger I expected. Instead, there's a sense of closure. Each item I remove feels like a step closer to reclaiming my space, my life. When I'm done, I call a donation service to pick up the boxes. I don't want any of it lingering in my home, reminding me of what happened. As the truck pulls away, I stand on the curb, watching it disappear down the street. For the first time, I feel like I can breathe again. That evening, Richard calls with an unexpected invitation. "There's a gallery opening downtown tonight," he says. "You should come. It's good to get out, be around people." I hesitate, unsure if I'm ready to dive back into social settings. But his tone is insistent, and I know he's right. "Fine," I say. "I'll be there." The gallery is bustling when I arrive, filled with the hum of conversation and the soft clink of champagne glasses. Richard waves me over, a grin on his face. "See? It's not so bad." As we wander through the exhibits, I find myself relaxing, enjoying the art and the atmosphere. It's a small step, but it feels significant, a reminder that life goes on, even after betrayal. Toward the end of the evening, a woman approaches me, her smile warm and genuine. "I couldn't help but notice you admiring the sculpture," she says, gesturing to the piece I've been studying. "What do you think?" We strike up a conversation, and for the first time in weeks, I feel a spark of connection. It's not romantic, not yet, but it's something. A reminder that not everyone in the world is out to hurt you. As the night winds down, I thank Richard for inviting me. "You were right," I admit. "It was good to get out." He claps me on the shoulder, his grin widening. "Told you. This is just the beginning, Alex. You've got a whole life ahead of you." As I drive home, I realize he's right. The past may have been messy, but the future is mine to shape. The next day feels like a clean slate. The boxes of Emily's things are gone. Her messages have stopped, and my apartment is mine again, free of the ghosts of her betrayal. For the first time, I start thinking about what I want, not what I've lost. At work, Richard stops by my office with 2 coffees in hand. He sets one on my desk and takes a seat across from me. "You look better," he says, nodding approvingly. "I feel better," I reply honestly. He takes a sip of his coffee and leans forward. "So, what's next for you?" The question catches me off guard. For so long, my life revolved around Emily, our future together, the wedding we were supposed to have. Now, with all of that gone, the possibilities feel overwhelming. I'm not sure, I admit, but I know I don't want to stay stuck in the past. Richard smiles, a rare, genuine expression. Good. It's about time we both started looking forward. That evening, I take a walk through the city, letting my thoughts wander. The streets are alive with people, couples holding hands, groups laughing over drinks, families enjoying the evening air. For the first time, it doesn't sting to see them. Instead, it feels like a reminder of what's possible. I stop at a bookstore on a whim, wandering through the aisles without a particular purpose. My eyes land on a self-help book with a bold title, Rebuilding After Betrayal. It's not the type of thing I'd usually pick up, but something about it resonates. I buy it and head home, flipping through the pages as I settle onto the couch. The book isn't groundbreaking, but it's comforting in its simplicity. It talks about letting go of anger, focusing on personal growth, and rediscovering who you are outside of the pain. One passage sticks with me. Healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about reclaiming your power and choosing what happens next. The words linger in my mind as I fall asleep, a quiet resolve taking root. Over the next few days, I throw myself into rebuilding my life. I reconnect with old friends I haven't seen in years, attend a few events Richard drags me to, and even start hitting the gym more regularly. Each small step feels like a victory, a reminder that life goes on. One evening, as I'm leaving the gym, I run into the woman from the gallery. Her name is Claire, and she's just as warm and engaging as I remembered. We chat for a while, and before I know it, we're exchanging numbers. It's not a date, not yet, but it feels like a door opening. A possibility. That weekend, Richard and I meet for drinks. He looks more relaxed than I've ever seen him, the weight of Lisa's betrayal finally lifting. "I'm thinking about taking a trip," he says, swirling his drink thoughtfully. "Something just for me." "Where to?" I ask. "Doesn't matter," he replies with a shrug. "Anywhere but here." I nod, understanding the sentiment. "You deserve it." He raises his glass. "So do you, Alex. Here's to moving forward." As I clink my glass against his, I feel something I haven't felt in weeks, hope. The past may still linger, but it doesn't define me. My future is mine to reclaim, and for the first time, I'm ready to embrace it. The weeks that follow are a strange mixture of closure and new beginnings. Emily is no longer a shadow in my life. Her presence has faded into a memory. Occasionally, I hear whispers from mutual friends about how she's doing, but I don't ask for details. I don't need to. Her story no longer interests me. Richard seems to be on a similar path. We still meet for drinks or lunch occasionally, but there's a newfound lightness to him. He mentions finalizing the divorce papers with Lisa, and I can tell he's relieved to be cutting ties for good. One morning, As I'm sifting through emails at work, a familiar name pops up in my inbox. Emily. For a moment, I consider deleting it without opening it, but curiosity gets the better of me. The email is brief, almost clinical. Alex, I just wanted to say thank you for the time we spent together. I know I ruined what we had, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I'm trying to move forward, and I hope you are too. You deserve happiness, and I'm sorry I couldn't be the person to give it to you. Take care. Emily. I read it twice, trying to gauge how I feel. There's no anger, no sadness, just a faint sense of detachment. She's trying to make peace, I realize, but I don't owe her anything. I close the email without replying. My peace doesn't depend on her. That evening, I meet Claire for coffee. It's casual, friendly, but there's an undeniable spark between us. She talks about her work as an art curator, her travels, and the small gallery she hopes to open one day. I find myself smiling more than I have in months, genuinely engaged in the conversation. At one point, she tilts her head and studies me curiously. You seem different, she says. Different how? I ask, intrigued. Lighter, she replies. Like you're not carrying something anymore. Her words stick with me long after our coffee date ends. She's right. The weight I've been carrying since discovering Emily's betrayal has finally lifted. For the first time, I feel like myself again. Over the next few days, I begin tying up loose ends. I update my apartment, swapping out old furniture and adding pieces that feel more me. I take a weekend trip to the coast, spending hours walking along the beach, letting the sound of the waves drown out the last remnants of my anger and hurt. Richard and I keep in touch, but it's clear we're both starting to focus on our separate paths. He's planning his trip, a solo journey through Europe, and I encourage him to go for it. You've earned it, I tell him during one of our last lunches before he leaves. And you've earned a fresh start, he replies with a smile. Don't let anyone take that from you. His words resonate deeply. For so long, my life revolved around Emily and the future we were supposed to build together. But now, I see that future for what it was, an illusion. The real future is the one I'm building now, on my own terms. That night, I sit on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. My phone buzzes with a text from Claire, a simple message about an art exhibit she wants to visit. I smile as I reply, feeling a warmth I haven't felt in a long time. The past may have shaped me, but it no longer controls me. I'm finally ready to close that chapter for good. The days begin to blend into something beautifully ordinary. My mornings start with a jog, the crisp air invigorating and the rhythm of my steps grounding. Work feels purposeful again, and my evenings are a mix of quiet self-reflection and occasional outings with Claire. The chaos that once consumed me now feels like a distant memory. Claire and I continue to meet, our connection growing stronger with each conversation. She has a way of pulling me out of my own head, of reminding me that life isn't just about moving past pain, but embracing the joys that come after it. One evening, as we walk through a local park, she stops suddenly and looks at me. You've been through a lot, she says softly, but you're not bitter. That's rare. I smile, touched by her observation. I've had my moments, I admit, but holding on to bitterness doesn't change anything. It just keeps you stuck. She nods, her gaze thoughtful. You're stronger than you think. Her words stay with me long after she leaves that night. For so long, I felt weak, helpless against the tide of betrayal that swept through my life. But now, I see that surviving it wasn't weakness, it was strength. And moving forward isn't just about leaving the past behind. It's about choosing to embrace the future, no matter how uncertain. Richard checks in sporadically during his travels, sending photos of ancient cathedrals and bustling city squares. In each picture, he looks more relaxed, more alive. It's a relief to see him rediscovering himself, just as I've been doing. One night, he calls from a cafe in Paris, his voice warm with excitement. You won't believe this, he says. I met someone. I laugh, genuinely happy for him. Richard, you've been gone for 2 weeks. Sometimes that's all it takes, he replies, and I can hear the smile in his voice. Don't worry, I'm not rushing into anything. But for the first time in years, I feel like myself again. That's all that matters, I tell him. And I mean it. As the weeks turn into months, The final remnants of Emily's influence on my life fade away. The people who once gossiped about us have moved on, their attention shifting to the next piece of drama. Even Emily herself seems to have let go, her attempts to contact me dwindling until they stop altogether. One afternoon, as I'm organizing some old files, I stumble across a photo of us from better times. We're at a beach, her arms around my waist, both of us laughing. For a moment, I feel a pang of sadness, not for what we lost, but for what we never really had. The love I thought was real was built on a shaky foundation, and it was only a matter of time before it crumbled. I placed the photo in the trash, not out of anger, but as a quiet act of closure. That chapter of my life is over, and I have no need to hold on to it any longer. Claire and I continue to grow closer, though neither of us rushes into defining what we are. She respects my space, my need to rebuild myself before committing to anything new, and I respect her for understanding that. For now, the companionship, the laughter, and the shared moments are enough. One evening, as we sit on my balcony watching the city lights, she asks, "Do you think you'll ever be ready to love again?" The question catches me off guard, but I don't shy away from it. "I think I already am," I reply honestly. She smiles, her hand brushing against mine. "Good. You deserve it." For the first time in what feels like forever, I believe her. It's a warm, quiet evening, the kind where the air feels heavy with possibility. Claire and I are sitting on my balcony again, a couple of glasses of wine between us. The city hums softly in the background, a distant reminder of the chaos that once consumed my life. But tonight, everything feels calm. "I've been thinking," I say, breaking the silence, "about what's next." Claire raises an eyebrow, her curiosity evident. "What do you mean?" "I mean life," I reply, leaning back in my chair. For so long, it was all about Emily, about the future we were supposed to have. But now, I'm finally realizing that the future isn't something you wait for. It's something you make. She smiles, a quiet understanding in her eyes. "So, what are you going to make?" I take a deep breath, letting the question settle. I want to live for myself, to stop waiting for life to happen and start building the one I want. No more holding on to things or people that don't value me. No more living in the past. Claire nods, her expression warm and encouraging. That's a good place to start. Over the next few weeks, I begin taking steps toward the life I've been imagining. I sign up for a photography class, something I've always wanted to try but never made time for. I start volunteering at a local shelter on weekends, finding fulfillment in giving back. And slowly, I start opening myself up to the idea of love again. Claire and I grow closer, our connection deepening with every conversation, every shared moment. She's not just a distraction from the past. She's a reminder that good things can still happen, that trust can be rebuilt, even after it's been shattered. One evening, as we're walking through the park, she slips her hand into mine. It's a small gesture, but it feels monumental. I look at her, and for the first time, I allow myself to imagine a future with someone new. A future built on honesty, respect, and genuine care. Richard calls from Greece, his voice brimming with excitement as he tells me about the island he's exploring. "You should come out here," he says. "It's incredible. Feels like a fresh start." "Maybe I will," I reply, and I mean it. The idea of traveling, of seeing the world, feels more possible now than it ever did before. As the months pass, the anger and hurt from Emily's betrayal continue to fade. They don't disappear completely. Some scars are meant to remind us of where we've been, but they no longer define me. Instead, they've become part of the story I'm writing for myself, a story of resilience and growth. One day, while cleaning out a closet, I find the journal I started during the worst of it. Flipping through its pages, I see the raw pain, the questions, the self-doubt that consumed me back then. But as I read, I also see something else, a determination to move forward, to heal. And I realize that I've done just that. As I close the journal and set it aside, I feel a sense of peace. The past is behind me, the future is wide open, and for the first time in a long time, I'm ready to embrace it. Claire's voice pulls me from my thoughts. "What are you thinking about?" she asks, her head resting on my shoulder. Just how far I've come, I reply, smiling. She looks up at me, her eyes bright. And where you're going next? I nod. Exactly. She smiles back, and in that moment, I know. The path forward is mine to choose, and it's going to be extraordinary. The story ends here, but life doesn't. We all face moments of betrayal, loss, and heartbreak, but it's how we rise from them that defines us. Have you ever faced a moment that changed your life forever? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this one. Let's keep moving forward, together.